Hello, everyone. It is April 8th, 2020. How is everybody doing out there? Of course, depending on your job situation, your career situation, you are either really very busy still and you haven't noticed a lot of changes in your everyday life, or on the other hand, if you're one of the millions of at least Americans out there who have been furloughed, laid off, fired, not fired, laid off and furloughed, probably, are the best terms. Then you probably have a lot more time on your hands than you ever expected would happen in 2020. Um, Here at Unfound, for me, not much has changed. I think I'm going to say that probably until this is over. That trivia nights don't happen. No disc golf tournaments. Can't go to Starbucks. Other than that, not much of a change in my personal life, to tell you the truth. So, there's that. But I know of some of my assistants. Of course, you know who they are. It doesn't seem like most of them have had many changes in their lives either. They are involved in occupations that in which they're, I still think, working all the hours that they get. Although my assistant Eric, who is a college professor, obviously his schedule has obviously changed, like anybody in education in the United States. So that's what's going on. Who got in here? Zebra, the Doe Patrol. Hello, Christine. What's going on? Little bit. Good to see you. Kristin, Concha, Angela, Paula. Hello, Cherie. Jasmine, Susan, Angela, James, Michelle, Honey Wheels. Love that. That's fun. Kathy, and hello, everyone. Thanks for a little bit says I still have my job because you are a nurse. I can certainly understand that a little bit. Indy, what's going on? So that's what's really been going on here. It's kind of funny that if you're looking at my hair and saying, Ed, it still looks like it's wet. I actually didn't even jump in the shower because I like to, pretty myself up before these video shows. I was on the phone with one of my dearest friends of all time. I had not talked to her in a while. She's one of my Vegas friends. I've known her for almost 20 years now. We first met at Star Trek. And in fact, if you'd like to look this woman up, I recently posted a picture of a Star Trek picture from way back in the day from like 2004. I am in it along with one of many of my close friends from working there. And the woman that I was talking to, her real name is Foster Boom. That's her last name, Boom. And yeah, it is getting in my way, Michelle, because I just got out of the shower like 5 minutes ago. And I'll get to that. But she and I hadn't talked in a while. We keep in contact through text, but we don't talk on the phone. In fact, I haven't probably talked to her on the phone since December or something. And I knew she was calling, and she called at about 10 till 8 Eastern time. And we talked from then the whole way until 20 till 9. And then I said, Foster, I got to go. I got to jump in the shower. I got to shave. I got to go. So I didn't start getting ready for the show tonight until about 20 till 9. So, but I think I did okay. But the hair is still wet. And Michelle, you brought that up. The hair is just a little unruly just because I cut it really close. I usually like to dry it off a little bit more and do some stuff, but had to talk to my very, very close friend, Foster Boom. Hello, Kristin. Hello, Bree. Nicole, what's going on? Kristin, you are not late. You are right on time. So if you'd like to know who my friend Foster Boom is, like I said, there was a picture that I posted from Star Trek on my personal Facebook page. I know many of you are friends with me on the personal side on there. And she is in the picture. She is in the chair opposite me. I'm on the left side of the picture. My other very special friend, Shay, who, as you know, maybe some of you know, she came down to see me September of last year. Man, I can't believe it's been 6 months. Where does the time go? She's in the middle chair, in the captain's chair, and then Foster is on the right with the blonde hair. That's Foster. That's from 16 years ago. And but her real name is Foster Boom. And she works at what does she do? She lives in Las Vegas, and she works for an animal shelter. They go out and they specialize in saving cats that are on the street. It's true. That's what she does. So, Paula says, I've never heard that name. I love it. Yeah, I know. Oh, Michelle, you've seen the picture? Okay. So, but that's my friend Foster Boom. I had not talked to her in a while, but I told her I got to go, Foster, and she knows that we actually talked about Unfound quite a bit tonight during the conversation. I don't know if she's tuning in. She's very busy as well. Nothing's changed for her, so that's why I jumped in the shower a little later than usual. But I'm glad we could start this show on time, and I'm glad all of you could join us. I want to remind all of you to give this video the thumbs up. Please like it, give it the thumbs up. And if you are not, I'm going to guess that most of you are, but I'm going to say this anyway, that I hope you are subscribed to the channel so you get notices when we post new videos. Now, mainly that's Natasha doing that, but you would also get notices when when, for example, this live show starts every Wednesday evening or night, so you don't miss it. I know some people do miss it. They forget what day it is. I've even had people tell me that they tune in a day early. Well, if you are a subscriber to the channel, then you will get a notice just about the time when it's about to play. I think you may get that on your phone, through the app, the YouTube app, or maybe get an email or something like that. So, you don't have to worry. Well, what day is it? And do I have to tune in? Or you'll miss it. You'll think it's Wednesday when really it's Thursday. So, there you go. Thank you for posting that, Shereen. Once again, what can help Unfound out in the channel out a lot is if you can find the thumbs up button, the like button for Unfound's videos. That can certainly help the channel out. I deeply appreciate if you do that. I know on some phones, on some applications, it's not easy to figure out how to do that. But if you could, I'd appreciate it. Kristin says, I'm in the medical field too, and thank you to all the nurses. And you guys make it all happen. Yes, CNAs, boy cans. Okay. That must be some sort of inside medical field joke. Boy cans. Okay. Nurses and cans, you guys make it happen. Maybe somebody will explain that to me. I don't know that. But I recorded most of Friday's episode today, edited the entire interview today. As you know, if you've tuned in before, I will talk about that right at the end, before this show is over. And if you noticed within maybe the last 6 weeks, what Natasha is doing, she is taking this video, these shows that I do on Wednesday nights, and then making a very small preview snippet video of the last part as a preview for Friday's episode. So maybe if you are subscribed to the channel, you are getting notices for that as well. That's something that was an idea that Natasha an idea she came up with, and I really like it. So I was working on that. That's mainly what I did today. I had to record all of my part and then edit the interview, which is about 2 hours long, something like that. So I spent a lot of days sitting on the couch, listening to that interview. There wasn't a lot to check or to cut out. There weren't many mistakes in it or anything, but still I listened to it, and the whole thing, of course, anyway. And the audio sounds great. Heather, who is my guest, sounds great. She did a great job, and it's exciting having her back on the program. There was no Q&A poll this week. There's no poll. I really didn't know what to do for a poll, given that last Friday's episode was a Q&A episode. I didn't know really what to do there. So we kind of just took the weekend off regarding any polls. But that will change this Saturday. I can assure you there will be a poll on Saturday morning in the group on Saturday morning. However, we did have the think tank on Sunday night, and this is my chance to pitch Patreon once again. If you'd like to be a member of the think tank, just go to patreon.com/unfound podcast and join. You can join us in the discussion. We had a really, even though I think we have fun every week, although I would not, we're talking about serious topics usually, it's still, quote unquote, it's enjoyable to hear other people's opinions. Maybe that's what I should say. It's interesting for me to hear other people's opinions, and, we discuss things. But I thought this past Sunday's think tank was a little more laid back because it was a Q&A episode. So I kind of turned some of those questions around on the members of the think tank. We had a good time with that. And even before we were over, I was asking them, of course, one of the questions that I got was, what makes me laugh? Well, I turned that around. I asked all of the think tank members what makes them laugh. What do they find funny, whether it's TV shows or stand-up comedians. And so we had a really good time with that. And Cherie says, it was nice getting to know everyone more personally. Yes, Cherie, being that we come in there every week with our thinking caps for disappearances, it doesn't give us a chance maybe to get to know people's backgrounds and their tastes and their interests. But that certainly, we had a chance to do that this past Sunday evening. So for any of you out there, if that sounds like something that sounds enjoyable to you, of course, what we're usually doing is talking in depth about the disappearance for that week. And that'll certainly be happening this Sunday. If that sounds something that's, interesting to you, it's $12 a month. And that breaks down to not even 50 cents a day. You can be a member of the Unfound think tank, the only thing of its kind where people come together and we just discuss a disappearance, going through some of the information and theories and kind of throwing around a lot of different ideas. And then what happens is I pass that information back to the guest. Only thing of its kind. You can be a part of it. And as Cherie posted there, patreon.com/unfound podcast. Kathy says, Cherie, I always enjoy getting to know others. And Elizabeth says, hello, Elizabeth. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all keeping healthy and safe. Trying to, Elizabeth. I don't know what everybody else is doing. I'm not going much of anywhere because all the places I usually go are shut down, except for Publix. So, if COVID-19 is going to eventually infect every person on the earth, I may be that last person. Kristin, I am taking questions. I'm always taking questions, Kristin. So if you have a question or questions, I really only have one or two for tonight. Kristin, type it right now. Just get it done. I'd love to hear anybody's or read anybody's questions. Once again, it does not have to be true crime related. It's allowed to be a bit personal, just has to be PG. We're going back to the Q&A episode. I'm not sure how many other um podcast hosts do that. At least true crime hosts. I don't know. I know that other hosts of other types of programs, I've seen them do it. For example, some of the shows or channels that I follow on YouTube, for example, Doug DeMuro, who is a car guy, or TFB TV, which is a guns channel, or Beyond the Trailer, Grace Randolph. I think she does a great job with that show. And of course, it's very difficult for her right now, being that she reviews movies and there's no movies coming out. They do Ask Me Anything types of shows once in a while. And that's kind of, where that happened. I think, when I started this last year, it was one of my assistants. In fact, I think it was Cherie who gave me the idea of doing a Q&A episode. And I thought, that's pretty good, because I knew that other hosts in other cultural parts, other parts of our culture were doing it. I said, well, that sounds, being that I was already doing it on this show, I thought, well, that's a good idea. And that will now become a yearly thing, not a monthly thing, not even every 4 months like update episodes. But I'm going to say once a year, I will put together a list of questions I've gotten that I think are good ones, and I will do that just to break things up at least a little bit. Because unfortunately, all of you are tuning into the YouTube show, but a lot of people who are devoted listeners of the podcast that comes out every Friday, they don't tune in on Wednesday nights. We're trying to get them to do that, and I think that the YouTube numbers are getting better. Natasha certainly has a lot to do with that, but the overall listenership of Unfound that only listen on Fridays has not heard me answer a lot of these questions for Wednesday nights. So doing that update episode gives them a chance to hear those questions answered as well. And I think there are a lot of great questions, and that's why they get included. Let's see. Bree says, I've only been to Walmart 3 times in the past weeks. Only 3 times, huh, Bree? Only 3. I've heard you are a model, Kristin asks. I will get back to that. Michelle, I'm at home with not much change either, as I've already lost my job before this broke out. Michelle, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope that you have some plans on hitting the ground running when this is all over. Bree, trying to stay home because of my mom is considered high risk. Yeah. Well, my dad's considered high risk, Bree. He's in Pennsylvania. I really don't know if he's following the rules or not. I'm not going to be his parent. He knows what's out there. I've talked to him a couple times this week. But he's gone to Walmart. He's gone here. There's gone there. I don't know what to tell you. Elizabeth, staying home is not bad. Drink lots of turmeric tea, water, and eat veggies and fruits. Boy, I wish I was as disciplined as you are, Elizabeth. Sharon, can't wait for the update episode. Yeah, that's coming, and we're going to talk about that before we're all done here tonight, Sharon. Kristin, Michelle, thank you. I think it was meant to be. They're essential as a brick supply company, and people are hanging out there unnecessarily, just bored. Yeah, Cherie is pushing the Twitter feed. Unfortunately, I have to talk about Twitter and what happened there. Indy, true crime question. Do you like roller coasters and other intense rides? I can answer that. Kristin says, me being from Massachusetts, I always feel offended when you say you won't cover Murray. Yeah, I'm just staying away from that, Kristin, for now. And I'm sorry I feel that way. Lots of other people need as much attention as Mara has gotten. Angel, our counts are going up in Pennsylvania. I know that, Angel. Michelle, selling my house and hopefully buying an RV to live in for a while, maybe traveling. Don't you know that? That sounds like fun. One of my things I'd love to do is rent an RV and drive around the United States. That would be fantastic. Hello, Carrie. Laura, what's going on? Sharla, I'm saying. Charla, I'm going to answer your question. I think I have a question from you, Charla, that I'm going to answer tonight. It's on my list. Charla says, I'm excited to watch for the first time. I'm usually getting my kids ready for better school at this time. Yeah, things have certainly changed, Charla. Let's go back to Kristin's question. Was I a model at one time? The answer is yes, I was. And it mainly happened, this is years and years and years and years ago. Mainly when I worked at Star Trek. I was, there was a full cast there. I don't know how many cast members there were, 30 or 40. And I would say it was pretty much divided evenly between men and women. That's how I remember it. I could be wrong. But if they ever needed any photos done, like to promote, I was usually the person they picked to do that. In fact, one year they were marketing getting weddings done on the bridge of the Enterprise at Star Trek The Experience. And I ended up doing a photo shoot with another cast member. And I was on the cover of the Las Vegas wedding guide. And what the wedding guide, I don't even know if they make it anymore. I have no idea. But that would be, it was like a booklet where you could go in there and all these little chapels and everything were all in this booklet. Their phone numbers, email addresses, everything. This was back before Facebook, maybe even before MySpace, before YouTube, before Google. But the internet was still around. And I ended up being on the cover of the wedding guide, which always seemed weird to me because, of course, I wasn't married at the time. And now, even all these years later, I've never been married. But at one time, I was on the cover of the wedding guide. Go figure. So, yes, I was. But mainly, I did some other things because I was involved in entertainment and things. But that's really where it, got started. There were some other things, but that's true. And it's why they picked me. I mean, we're all actors or something, and I guess actors are supposed to be good looking or whatever. And and there were standards, of how we had to look and the weight that we had to look good in what we were wearing, etc. I don't know. To mind, probably the noteworthy thing that I can talk about. Nicole says, I'm in South Jersey. It's crazy here. I've been in my house for a month. Let's all chip in and buy an Unfound bus. We can travel around. That would be crazy, Paula. Yes, the Unfound group. Thank you, Cherie. Great idea. I guess I would have to be the driver of that bus. Is that me? Am I going to have to do that? So somebody asked me another great question here. What was this question? Let's go back up here. Hold on a second. Indy asked me, non-true crime question, do you like roller coasters and other intense rides? Wow, Indy. It just depends. It really does. For example, if I go to Disney World, I can ride like Space Mountain. That's fine. If we go over to Hollywood Studios for Disney, where they have the Rock and Roller Coaster, the Aerosmith themed roller coaster, I can ride that and a lot of things. But things like the Tower of Terror, which drops you and then pulls you back up and then drops you again, that gets to me a little bit. I'll admit it. Maybe I'm a wimp or something, but there's just something about that feeling of falling that really distresses me. It gives me a little bit of a panic attack. But I have ridden it, but it's not like my first choice. And I have to admit, like a year and a half ago, I went to Universal with some of my family, and I did chicken out on riding a couple things. I'm such a wimp. But there are other things that I can't ride because I get sick. I get motion sickness, like on motion simulator rides where you're on the platform and there's like a screen and everything, that gives me really bad motion sickness. I get really bad headaches from it. So I can't do anything like that unless I really take some Dramamine or something. But I do love them. You know, they're fun to watch and everything. It's just on a case-by-case basis whether I'm going to ride something or not. But I love amusement parks. I think they're fantastic. You know, Kennywood, used to go to Kennywood when I lived in Pennsylvania, which is down in Pittsburgh. I love going to Disney. I love Epcot, love Hollywood Studios, love Universal. I did all this stuff, you know, in the Harry Potter world at Universal like a year and a half ago. Universal, though, is expensive. I mean, if you think Disney's expensive, Universal is crazy. But I love the atmosphere. I love watching the people, because I am kind of I'm going to just say this, artsy fartsy, and I can say that because I know that I'm one of those people. I love the designs and all the thought and creativity that goes into it. But when it comes to rides, it's a little hit and miss. The Doe Patrol says, Kristen said, I thought it was the best. Kristin says she thought she was the best hand model ever. Kristin, I'm sure you were. The Doe Patrol. I'm happy to be home in Seattle, not leaving and doing house projects and hard work. I already repainted the living room and bathroom and bedroom. Oh my gosh. The pets are loving me being home. Wow, you're doing some work. You're getting stuff done, the Doe Patrol. Michelle says, I'm with you, Ed. I pray loudly on roller coasters. Everybody laughs. I provide the entertainment. That's fun. That sounds like fun, Michelle. Laura, Paula, that would actually be a great idea. Unfound on tour, and we could go in all the cities of the cases. Unfound covered, or go to every state and cover a disappearance in every state. I would love to do that, Laura. I would love to be able to do that. I'd love to go to all of these locations and meet with the families. I'd love to do that. I love it. I don't know how it would be arranged. It's a lot of logistics and a lot of money and everything else, but I'd love to do that. As I stated in the Q&A episode, that I've gotten to meet some guests, but very, very few compared to all of the episodes that we've done. So, of course, give me an opportunity to do that and go see these places, of course, for the first time. It'd be fantastic. I just don't think that's going to happen probably anytime soon, but I would never rule it out. You know, I think that if Unfound is going to be around for the next, let's say, 20 years, I think we can eventually make that happen. I just don't think it's going to be this year. So there you go. But regarding the Q&A episode again, I did write a blog for it, and it is free. It is on the website. I decided, along with a suggestion from Natasha, decided to make this one free, and it is on the Unfound website, theunfoundpodcast.com. Let me see if I have a link. It says, here it is. Let me, I'm just going to post this in here for all of you once it comes up. Hold on a second, please. Here we go. Here is the link if you'd like to read the blog that I wrote about the Q&A episode. Now, this is usually, you posted it? Okay. I'm just going to post it again. Cherie. There you go. And this is the blog that I usually write for Patreon that is only readable by Patreon members. Even if you're just in at $2 a month, which is great, they get to read the blog. This blog is on Patreon, but this is an example of what I do on Patreon. And if that's something, once again, that sounds interesting to you, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. I just want to remind you again to give this video the thumbs up, like it, please. And so, you can check that blog out, just commenting on some of the questions and how I answered them during the episode, which was a long episode. Let's move on to this. This past Saturday, we had a meeting here at Unfound. A couple of the assistants couldn't make it because they had work, but 4 of us got together and the meeting got recorded, and so I'm hoping the other assistants got to listen to it. We're thinking about starting something new. I'm not sure what that means right now. I have to be honest, I'm not going to be the one who is heading it up. This was an idea that was brought to me by my assistant, Eric. We were talking back and forth about how many of you are at home and have more time on your hands, and and I'm reading and hearing about people who are getting caught up on their Netflix series and Disney Plus, and of course, some people are getting housework done and painting rooms and everything. And Eric said, maybe this is an opportunity to try something new, being that there are so many people at home and they're looking for things to do and things to watch and they can't go anywhere. What can we do? And that is an idea that really spoke to me because I've seen other shows that I follow, other programs that I follow doing it already, not true crime programs, because I think you already know I don't pay attention really too much to what other programs are doing. But in the things that I watch when I'm not doing Unfound on YouTube, for example, I already brought it up. Grace Randolph with Beyond the Trailer, Doug DeMuro with his car show, TFB TV, the Blanco Lirio channel, which is really like an airline, kind of a mixture of a couple things that guy does. But they've kind of stepped up their game a little bit, maybe releasing some more videos more often because of what's going on. People are at home looking for content to listen to or read. And so I already kind of had that in my head. So when Eric brought that up to me, I thought, okay, well, let's have a meeting, and between as many people as we can get together, and let's talk about it. And so we did. And I'm still not sure what that's going to be. It's totally in Eric's hands of what he wants to do and who other people, other assistants who are going to be involved in it and what it's going to look like and all of that. But I just am going to sit back, let him and whoever else wants to be involved put something together, and I'll just, give it my seal of approval. Of course, if I approve of it. It's going to probably be a while. It might take a month, to put it all together. From what we were talking about on Saturday, it's going to certainly be something that I think is unique in the true crime genre. We'll see. But it's going to be something new, but I can assure you that I'm not going to be hosting it. Once again, it will have my approval. I'll oversee it and give suggestions and things. But between, of course, the podcast and this show and the think tank, I'm already doing things three days a week. And of course, phone calls, looking stuff up, recording, and everything else. Obviously, I have a lot on my plate. The good news is that I have plenty of people to talk to, and I think that we're going to have some guests, for good one, really solid guests for the foreseeable future, who I know want to be on the program. So it's not like we're scrambling or anything at this time. So that's good. That certainly helps. But I'm not the kind of guy that needs the spotlight. If one of the my assistants comes to me with an idea, as all of them have at one time or another, great, fine. You want to do it, let's get it done. I do not have to be the instigator of all ideas. In fact, I'm not. It's not even close to that. So what a lot of things that you see with Unfound were not originally, my idea. So so we'll see what happens. I will, of course, once it's kind of put together as a general idea, then I will let you know how it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, when it's going to may happen, how you can be involved. I just don't know what it's going to be right at this second. I would certainly be speaking out of school at this point by giving you any of the things that we talked about this last Saturday. I don't want to get your expectations going in one direction and be something different. So all I want, I think the important point is that we've threw around some ideas. It's going to be something new. It will not be like this, me talking to all of you. It will be something different, but I think it's going to be interesting. And once again, it's going to be something different than anybody else is doing. So we'll just have to see. Little Bit says she's been getting caught up on her podcasts. Okay. Carrie says the new project will be something great. I hope so too, Carrie. Laura says she's looking forward to it. Michelle. Carrie says Unfound is for sure a huge collaborative thing on the regular. That's true. That's totally true. Just as a good example, if it wasn't for Carrie and Heather, and maybe Cherie too. Cherie, I'll throw you in there. You wouldn't have these lights that kind of brighten everything up. That was something they came to me and said, Ed, I think it's time you need to step up in the lighting category. And they were right. They were absolutely right. I put up no fight whatsoever. And they were absolutely 100% right. And things like that are happening all the time. So there's that. Moving on to some other things. I still no news on some of Unfound's cases as far as like updates. Of course, we'll be doing an update episode in a couple weeks. Still no update on Aundria Bowman. Still, the remains have not been positively identified, at least to my knowledge. Still no word on Austin Pivo with the remains that were found up on the Fort Hall Reservation in Idaho. I talked to his mother over Messenger within the last couple weeks. Still no confirmation on that. She has told me what some people have told her. If it is Austin's remains and what probably happened, but I'm just going to stay away from that for now. But still no confirmation that those remains that were found are Austin's. Something else that I was wondering about that I have to put on my list of things to do. Carlos Rodriguez, the presumed murder of Zoe Campos. To my knowledge, still awaiting trial. I don't know what's going on in that. I probably should put it on my list of things to do to call her mother, Melinda, see how she's doing. I haven't talked to her in a while. And, I guess I have to bring this up too, being that people ask me this question at least a couple times a week, even now. Any updates in Tom Brown's case? Not to my knowledge. I know that I think it was both last week and this week when I posted, hey, I'd like some questions for tonight's show. Somebody asked me any Tom Brown updates, and I said none that I know of. Sometimes I just tag Penny on those questions, and I think her answer is nope, nothing. My perception is that things have really died down on that since Nathan Lewis resigned. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe because he was an easy target. Don't know. And I don't know what he's done with his life since he's resigned. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on in Hemphill County. I don't know how the new sheriff is working out. I don't know. I've not heard anything regarding Tom Brown's case. It seems very quiet. However, that doesn't mean there aren't things going on. But if there are, I don't know about them. And Penny hasn't really told me anything. There you go. Carrie says, "Oh, all us girls talked about those lights and sent Cherie in to tell you about it." I know, Carrie. I know. When you want to talk to me, it's the Cherie that's the one that comes to. Cherie is the one that comes to me, and that's fine. Yeah. And then Cherie saying, "No movement. Carlos Rodriguez still sits." And that's been what, a year and a half now. It's been a year and a half since Zoe's remains were found. That was November 2018. That was right around when my mother died that all happened. Yeah. I don't know. No what's going on though. Carrie said courts are still on hold, all on hold, pretty much everywhere. Yeah. Well, I can guess that, Carrie, but it's been a year and a half. I would have thought there would have been something that would have been done by now. Laura says that I thought I'd seen something on Kathy Turkanian's page that said the remains were positively ID'd on November 11th, 2020. I'll have to go back and look, but I thought I saw her posted on her. That's news to me, Laura. Of course, Kathy has always been a vigorous advocate, for her biological daughter, Aundria, and I have not seen any news stories that positively identify that. That might be, I think just about everybody's taking for granted that it's Aundria, and that makes total sense. I'm not arguing with those people. All I'm saying is that I've not seen it from an official source that those are Aundria's remains. And of course, Dennis Bowman has been in the news. Those stories are out there about him getting extradited, etc. But I haven't seen any that that name him and put him, and then also saying that those are the remains of Aundria. 100%. I've not seen anything like that. Although I know what Kathy has been saying, and she has every right to say that. I think it makes total sense that it is Aundria. But I'm talking about evidence that will ultimately be used at a trial or something. That's what I'm talking about. But if I miss something, that's always possible. Hello, Mark. So I just don't have some of these things that have been happening. Just no updates. Although I think I should have had some updates, but there are no updates. Next thing I want to talk about is it seems that there is an old Unfound disappearance that we covered way back when that that might be getting some new attention. I can't unfortunately tell you what episode it is or what disappearance it is, but it is one that I'll just say within the first year of Unfound's existence. So September 2016 to September 2017. Hello, Emily. Hello, Mark. I don't know if I don't know if I'm a big dog, Mark. I'm more like, my favorite dogs are wiener dogs. So if I'm going to be a dog, I'm going to be a wiener dog. So I don't know if I'm a big dog, but thanks. There is the family of this missing person has hired a new private investigator, and this guy, this private investigator, found out about the episode that Unfound did, listened to it, and then I had a chance to talk to him. I think it was last Thursday. And we talked for like an hour, and we talked about a bunch of different things, not just this disappearance, but some other things that he was familiar with in true crime. But, so he was asking me if, I had any new insight into it, any new information since the episode came out. And the answer was no and no. This particular disappearance, since we covered it, I don't think there's been any movement on it whatsoever. I haven't gotten any word on anything concerning it. So I really couldn't help him too much. But then we did talk about, the investigation into the disappearance and the public perceptions of it. And I have to say, it sounded like he and I were kind of on the same page. That this was a disappearance that in which one particular angle got 95% of the attention, and everything else that was going on got like 5%. And I think that made sense from this disappearance. The more and more I think that 5% should be looked at. And I don't think it's really, at least publicly, to the public's knowledge, has really been looked into. So my guess, he can do whatever he wants. I mean, I'm not in control of it. He's not working for me. He can do whatever he wants. But I got the feeling that this is kind of the direction that this guy is going to go, instead of going the most obvious route. Because a lot of people have gone the most obvious route and nothing's turned up. A lot of theories, a lot of allegations, and nothing. So, I think all of you have been around Unfound long enough, you know how I feel about that I can understand going after the most popular theory for a while and really try to dig things up and everything. But after a while, if you're not getting anything, maybe it's time to go back to your source material, the base material, look at all that first information, from those days around the disappearance, and look at them again and maybe think, you know what? Maybe we need to try something new. It's been some years. We've done 100%. Nothing's really turned up. Maybe we need to go in a different direction and see what happens. And I certainly think this disappearance is one that needs that. But once again, I can't tell you what the case is because I think that would be wrong, and I can't name who this guy is. But he's working for the family. I think they got in touch with him, and we'll see what happens. We'll just see what happens. All I can tell you is this is a disappearance that, could lend itself to a lot of different interpretations. It's not, here's what I can tell you. For example, it's not like Rosemary Raps, and that's one's been on my mind recently, where, she got, the husband gets up in the morning and she's gone, but her purse and her phone and the car and everything else are still there. It's not Rosemary Raps, and it's not that type of disappearance. It's one that, once again, lends itself to a lot of different possibilities. And one certain possibility has been beaten to death, and just nothing's come of it. Even though I think a lot of people want something to come of it. Time to go in a different direction. Very important question. You know what, Elizabeth, man? Elizabeth, are you like reading my mind, or were you looking at my notes or something? Because I have that topic that I'm going to answer. In fact, I'm going to do that right now, Elizabeth. Great question. Great minds think alike. Elizabeth asked me, how do you feel about the thousands of prison inmates across the United States being released due to the coronavirus? Wow. I was reading. I want you to know I am not an expert on this. Okay, before we get into this, and I'm going to try to stay away from all the political ramifications and on this. I'm going to try my best to do that. Elizabeth, I've not read every story regarding this, but I get the idea this is on a state-by-state basis, that some states are thinking about doing this, some states aren't thinking about doing this. I read in my notes here, I have an article from Alabama where there was some petition or something going toward their government, their governor, that a petition that all inmates over 60 years old and any other inmates who may have health issues that may be at risk should be released. Whereas I guess any prisoners under 60 years old and who are not at risk, do not have those health issues that could cause them to possibly die from COVID-19, then they would get to stay in jail. And once again, I think this is by a state basis. It may be that in some other state they want to release everybody over 50 years old, or just everybody under 65 years old. There's different standards from state to state. I think that I have it here, and here are my impressions. First of all, I think we have to understand something, that no group of people is more quarantined than a bunch of prisoners. Okay, at least in a society such as the United States. Now, maybe if you go to North Korea and maybe some other countries, or you are women in some very, very strict Muslim countries, then you're very quarantined. But in free societies where everybody can vote and everybody has free speech and everything, people, men or women, who are in jail are more quarantined than anybody, first of all. Second of all, being that is the case, and I know that this virus has gotten into these prisons, and that sucks. Isn't it going to just make it more likely, being that those people are already quarantined, if they are let out into free society, doesn't it then make sense that they're just more likely to get the virus and not less? If the virus is going through a prison, is it not easier to know that and make it even stricter rules regarding prison being inmates than just saying all these people can just be let out into society? Doesn't that make it more likely that they are going to catch the virus, not less? If the standard is that you don't want these people to get the virus, then isn't it better for them to be in there and not out here? That's the first thing to come to mind. Now, I'm not a social scientist. I'm not a virologist. I don't know. But it makes sense to me that, being that all of us out here in the free world are quarantining ourselves and self-isolating and everything, and still people are getting it, we're surely not as isolated as people. And if we quarantine ourselves, well, what better quarantine is there than being in prison? Even though I know that this virus has made it into some prison populations. So I think what I'm saying is, I don't think letting these people out is going to make it less likely that they get the virus. I think it makes it more likely that they're going to get the virus, which means they should probably just stay where they are, no matter what their crime is or how old they are. That's my impression. If the sole goal is to make sure these people don't get sick, then that is it. Not to mention also that they're in prison, and even though I know that the prison health system is not what we have out here in the free world, these people can be more closely monitored than you can monitor a free society. Which means if they are starting to show symptoms, they're more likely to get noticed while they're in prison than if they're out here. So that is my impression. I think that I believe that. That's not a political answer, but just from a logical point of view, if the goal is to keep these people from getting sick, they're better off staying there. My impression, however, is that the people who want these people out, they have other agendas about the prison system, about sentencing, about all of these other things that really don't have anything to do with the virus itself. That's my impression. So they're using the virus to get what they want. I'm just going to look at it from what I've been told by so many people to this point regarding the virus. And that if you isolate yourself, you're less likely to get it. Well, There's nobody more isolated in a free society than the prisoners. Their actions, their movements can be controlled 24/7. There you go. Let me see what everybody's saying here. Can you tell us what the name rhymes with? No, I cannot, Paula, regarding the private investigator. No, I can't do that. That's funny, though. No. Sheree getting keypad ready. Yeah. Carrie says, from what I saw, the few states that are talking about it, most will be nonviolent criminals, less than 6 months of time left. Elizabeth says, Philadelphia, New York City have already done so. Carrie, one would think, but you have inmates rolling in and out daily, and the staff comes and goes. Elizabeth, it is state by state, and health has little to do with their. Okay. I think it depends on the crimes committed and the level of risk that they mean to the community's safety if those inmates are released. The Doe Patrol is asking about Thomas Brown. I'll come back to that. Michelle says, you're making great sense there, Ed. Always trying to do that. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to make some sense of it. Carrie says, I think it is in the matter of being able to treat them, and they don't have adequate medical care in prison systems. Well, Carrie, I agree with you, but all we're hearing is how all the hospitals already are filled up, with people who aren't prisoners. So I think letting people out would only make that situation worse. Paula, lots of nonviolent cases here being dismissed by the DA. Only thing going to court is emergency mental health cases. My nephew has his temperature checked he goes to jail to see his clients. Cherie says that she thinks my impression is probably correct. I have to admit that, I guess that if I was a prisoner, if I was in jail for something, and I found out about this virus, and I knew it was going around, and I didn't want to get it, whether I'm a perfectly healthy individual or I have some issues or whatever, I think that I would be doing my best to avoid it. Now, I know that a lot of things are going to be out of my control while I'm in prison. But, but I think that I would have to think, either being in here or being out there, and a lot of prisoners know what's going on out in the free world. That a lot of them can watch TV or do whatever. They get phone calls, of course, depending on what they're in for and their freedoms that they have in jail. They know what's going on out here. They've probably heard about hospitals being overrun in certain areas, and they hear about people, even like the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, getting it and et cetera. And you might think, what, maybe it's better I just stay here. So, it just seems to me that there could be other things afoot. And I can't rule out that some of these inmates are being let out because of the reason of overcrowding, and they're just using the virus as a reason to do this. Or, of course, a lot being that, marijuana is now legal in so many states. There's still inmates in there with drug crimes of marijuana, and some politicians could be saying, well, this is an opportunity to let those people out under the guise of the virus. This virus is going to be used to blame, for a lot of things. The virus is going to be a scapegoat for a lot of stuff before it's all over. We've only just started doing this. That's just started. So that's Carrie says it's hard to monitor everyone's health when you have a 226 bed facility and only 4 staff members on shift on a regular. That comes from personal experience. I don't doubt that at all. Carrie, sure, it's really no different out here. Some of us still have to go to work and risk being exposed. This is about correcting a problem that has little to do with COVID. Paula, has to be political. They would more than likely have free health care, whether out or in prison, so not a money issue. I'm one of those at risk-wise. How that goes to work every day. Yeah. Don't know. You know, you have to remember the other thing. It's not like prisons are. I guess what I'm going to say here is it's not like there aren't other diseases in prisons. I mean, if we're going to let prisoners out because of the coronavirus, COVID-19, then does that mean we also let prisoners out for the other diseases that are going around in jails? Because inmates are nervous about getting them? No. Where do you, I don't know where you start drawing the line. I don't know. Being that I think that, when it comes to hepatitis and things like that, I think that's something that goes around in prisons. Are we going to let every inmate out that's afraid to get that? I don't know. Sharla says, anytime someone dies in prison, there are liability issues. Maybe that's part of it. Sharla, that could be too. Could be. Laura says, yes, like MRSA, AIDS, hepatitis, yes. So I just don't think that's the standard you can use to let certain people out of prison. I just don't think that. Now, on the other hand, if it was the end of the world and there was the asteroid from Armageddon or Deep Impact headed toward the Earth, and it was going to mean the end of our existence, it's going to be like the dinosaurs. In that, let everybody out. But it's not that. So I think these people should stay where they are. And when they serve their sentences, they can be let out. Let's move on to Sharla. Being that Sharla is here, she asked me a good question, one that was not that I did not answer. I think I've gotten this question before, but I did not answer it for the Q&A episode. Sharla asked me, have I ever interviewed someone who I thought was guilty? Well, nobody that's the closest we could ever come to that, Sharla, is Steve Pankey. The interview I did in October last year from the Janelle Matthews case, which is a very unique situation because we did not cover the disappearance of Janelle Matthews. Steve Pankey, who is a suspect in her now murder, contacted me and wanted to be on the program, and I interviewed him. It was 3 hours. I'll be honest with you, I do not think that he murdered Janelle Matthews, even despite him being hounded because of it, even though he's acted very strangely, on and on and on. I do not believe that Steve Pankey murdered Janelle Matthews. So we can rule that one out right now. However, I did have a chance to, after the episode came out, I interviewed the next door neighbor of Judith Emke. That's a case we covered back in 2018. This guy, I forget his name right now, but he was the next door neighbor. The rumor was that Judith and this guy were having an affair. And I had a chance to talk to him a few weeks after the episode came out. Maybe. I mean, there are a lot of different possibilities in Judith's disappearance. And I will be honest, although he and I got along, and in fact, we talked once, and then he called me back to talk a little bit more. So there was nothing that he said that would rule him out, but there was nothing that he said that would rule him in. I asked him if he did have an affair with Judith, and he was somewhat coy with me. I would say evasive, coy. I'm sure if I was looking at him in person, he would probably give me a sly smile, kind of looking at me, a little sideways like this, So it's certainly possible that he did something to Judith, but it's also possible that her husband did something to her, or she just ran off on her own. There are a lot of different possibilities in that case. So there's one, the guy who might be guilty, but there was nothing that he said that after I got off the phone, I was like, oh yeah, he did it. He caused that disappearance. The other situation that I ran into, and there might be a couple more, but this is the other one that popped up, was when I covered the disappearances of Jansen Brewer and Daniel Braden in November of 2018. Um, at some point after the episode came out, this guy, Scotty, forget his last name now. This guy, Scotty, who knew both of them, who owned the truck that Jansen was driving around at the time of his disappearance, he contacted me through Messenger, and we had a couple conversations, and he certainly acted shady. And there is a part of me that believes he had something to do with both of those guys' disappearances. And what's noteworthy about that is then last year, I remember this because I was living now here where I live now. An investigator for the DA's office in the area where these two guys disappeared, an investigator from the DA's office contacted me and had heard that I had talked to Scotty and through Messenger, and he wanted copies of those conversations, and I was more than happy to give it to him. And I've not talked to the guy since. So, is he the one who didn't report his truck missing? Exactly, Sharla. Yes, that's the one. So Scotty, I got to talk to him. He acted very shady. He was, I would say that he was evasive. I still have copies of the conversations on Messenger from talking to him. He was putting the blame on other people and coming up, I think, with some stories that didn't quite make sense. So very well may be, Sharla, that he's responsible. So I guess I have, but what we try to do on here, Sharla, is we never want to have somebody who is an official interview for a disappearance that we think is the main suspect. The Steve Pankey situation was unique because he contacted me and wanted to be on the program. Otherwise, we've in the past we've tried to contact some people who were suspects or persons of interest. Some of them have blown us off. Maybe the one that comes to my mind right now is Cameron Remmer. I was able to figure out the two security guards who were working that night that Cameron got kicked out of the Fairmont in San Francisco. Cherie contacted one of them, and she had a very short email back and forth with one of them, and the guy ended up not ever responding again. Acted, in my opinion, a little, somewhat suspiciously. I tried to talk to Dan Inouye, who I was told was a good guy by somebody who knew him, and he wouldn't talk to me. And then he went to Cameron's mother and, was telling her that I'm a kook. Also very shady. So we have had these types of situations where we've tried to talk to people who were very close to the disappearance, maybe even somebody who caused the disappearance. And we've gotten blown off quite a bit, but then, we've had a couple conversations here and there. But I can assure you, when it comes to official interviews that are the core of every podcast episode that comes out every Friday, we go to great lengths to make sure these people are not suspects who are then giving us a load of crap. There you go. Carrie, and the girl that threatened to sue, she wasn't real pleased either. Yeah. Carrie, it's how quickly we forget. That was back in October, November. Yeah, she said a lot of things. That was the J.L. Hamblin case, and I've not heard from her since. And my opinion on that disappearance hasn't changed. I did talk to her. She sent me a message back and forth a few times. and she didn't said nothing to exclude her, and she said nothing to include her. Actually, being that you brought that up, Carrie, thank you for reminding. Her attorney told her to shut up. Really, what came out of that, Carrie, and I'll just tell all of you, is that if you remember going back to J.L. Hamblin's disappearance, that there were two guys that she talked to on the phone right before she disappeared that night. One guy was some military guy. He was actually the last call that she had, but the guy before that, I didn't even find out, and I don't even know that my guest for that episode, Lisa, or was it Linda? I remember her last name. My guest for that episode, I don't even think she realized, but the other guy lived in the exact same complex where JL was living with the woman that you're talking about, Carrie, and her husband and those kids. I didn't even find that out until after the episode came out. That certainly caught my attention. Carrie says I think she only made herself look worse. Well, Carrie can't argue with that, but I wouldn't say that she said anything that was damning. However, what caught my ear was the one guy that JL talked to that night lived in the same apartment complex. Something that never came out in any discussion that I had until he mentioned it when I talked to him. I was like, oh, really? So, Sharla, we've had some instances where we have talked to people that, you just wonder. And we would certainly like to do more of that. It's just with everything, everything that everybody is doing that's going on right now, we can't always do that. However, I did give some numbers and names to Cherie today that she's going to be working on a couple different things. And hopefully we can get some of those people to talk for future episodes. We'll just have to see. So there's the answer to that question, Sharla. It does happen, but, not very often. And I can't say that in these conversations that any of them ever said anything that was really, really like, aha, I caught you. It was more being evasive on questions, a lack of caring. That's been more common in those types of conversations. Carrie says, I don't think anyone on the team would deny talking to anyone. That's true. It's just a matter of time, Carrie. Some of these people are not easy to track down. You're welcome, Sharla. Once again, if you are watching tonight, please give the thumbs up to this video and give this video a like if you haven't done so already. As a lot of you know, I want to just follow up on this one more time. Many of you know that Mike Moran, who is a person of interest, I really don't know what to call him, in Megan Lancaster's disappearance, his offices were raided last week. Some would say it's been a long time coming. I'm one of those people. And he has now gone on the record saying that all these allegations against him are false. He's really trying to make himself out to be the victim here. And he's claiming, and he's been doing this for years. I mean, this is not new regarding Mike Moran. You can find articles just Googling them. You don't even have to have newspapers.com or anything to know that there have been allegations against Mike Moran and other people, men in his cluster of friends, I guess you'd say. There have been a lot of allegations against them for a couple decades. Corruption, sex trafficking, prostitution, a lot of stuff, lots of stuff. And many of these guys, and I think there are even a couple women in there, who knew Mike have gone to jail, but he's somehow been able to avoid it. Um, the problem always have with this, and this is nothing against Katie, Megan's sister-in-law, who I think has done a fantastic job. I think she's done a great job, a good a job as any person that I've had on Unfound, as far as keeping the word out there, really pushing the police department and everything. I mean, really, really good. It's just, after a while, you start to wonder, how could all of these other people like get in trouble, go to jail, and then Mike avoid it? What is it about him that is different? And he's not the only one, but you start looking into a lot of these people, and they have done time or doing time now and been indicted and everything. And Mike's been able to avoid all of that, despite all of this stuff against him. And, as I like to remind people sometimes, criminal masterminds only exist in movies and in novels. They don't exist in real life. I mean, even mobsters and godfathers, go to jail at one point or another, despite them being professional criminals. Out there extorting people involved in prostitution, running drugs, shakedowns, illegal betting and gambling and everything else. Despite what we make them out to be, for example, on The Sopranos or elsewhere, they are not criminal masterminds. They're humans like everybody else. They make mistakes. They take shortcuts, and those are the things that usually get them put in jail. They just do something that is that's so obvious, and not even their high-powered lawyers and having maybe a judge or somebody in their pocket, can get them to avoid jail time. So what it leads me to believe with Mike Moran is that I have no doubt that he is a horrible person. There's no doubt in my mind. However, I think that he probably did break the law in some of the things that he has done. However, on the other hand, I'm not inclined to believe that he is, once again, some sort of criminal mastermind who has been able to avoid all of this because, he has all these different people in his pocket and everything. That he's just not like that. That's not the impression that I get of him at all. I think probably that he's claiming he's completely innocent. And then there are other people who are saying he's the worst person in Portsmouth, Ohio. I'm inclined to believe probably that he comes down somewhere in between. I think that he's probably done things illegal. I think that he probably has done, taken part in some sex trafficking, probably been a pimp for some of these women who are working for him in his law firm, but really they're prostitutes. I'm guessing some of that happened. I'm also guessing that some of it are lies. And having said all of that, I'm not convinced he had anything to do with Megan's disappearance personally. However, I can see a situation where what he was doing in the total umbrella of all things illegal in Portsmouth, Ohio, that somewhere in there, something else had, in this criminal activity had something to do with Megan's disappearance. That doesn't mean that Mike caused it or anything else. I have not seen anything. I know why people are suspicious of him. I know that Megan and he knew each other. I'm guessing there's a good reason that they knew each other. Other than him representing her in court. But I'm just not so sure that he's connected to Megan's disappearance. So what's going to happen with Mike Moran? I really don't know. how does a person who has allegedly got away with all of these things for so much time then suddenly, get caught when it doesn't seem like his behavior or anything else has changed at all? I don't know. Don't know. Cherie says, well, depends on what you think happened to Lisa Shuttleworth. Where did that come from, Cherie? I know you typed that a few minutes ago, but now, Carrie, agreed that dude should have been dug into harder a long time ago. Cherie says that Mike Moran reminds of Harvey Weinstein. Well, Cherie, that's interesting you put it that way. I guess the difference would be that Harvey Weinstein obviously at one time could wield a lot of power. With Miramax, he was the go-to guy in Hollywood, and I hate casting couches as much as the next moral person. But he had the money, he had the power, and he was kind of a gateway guy. And he used that power horribly. Whereas Mike Moran, he's a defense attorney in Portsmouth, Ohio. Portsmouth, Ohio, I don't know if anybody could even, no offense, but I don't think anybody could pick it out on a map. So I don't know how many people would really be afraid of him. I don't know how many people that he would be able to extort. I'm going to guess that he came across some moral people. There are moral people in Portsmouth, Ohio, right? Whereas with, Harvey Weinstein, horrible guy. But it's obvious now that a lot of these women kept their mouths shut because they were afraid if they came out, their careers would be ruined, like he ruined Mira Sorvino's career, an Academy Award winner. She just completely dropped off the map. Ashley Judd, same way, ruined her career, despite her doing a lot of big movies. One that I know with Morgan Freeman, Along Came a Spider, or one of those, ruined her career. And so a lot of these women didn't want to come forward because they were afraid their careers would get ruined. And so, whereas with this, I don't see, I realized that he took advantage probably of some women in very delicate circumstances, but he certainly didn't have the power that Harvey Weinstein did. So, but I do see the similarities in that they're both old guys who had a lot of women around them and took advantage of some of them. Michelle says, small town and money, too much corruption. Don't forget thumbs up, please. Yes. Yes. For everybody, I see 38 people in here, but only 24 thumbs up. Who are you that has not given this video a thumbs up yet? Who are you? I could pick out Portsmouth, Ohio. Sharon says, unfortunately. Okay, Sharon, sorry. I get what Cherie is saying. I'm not totally disagreeing with her, but I guess what I'm saying is I can understand how Harvey Weinstein got away with what he did for so long. Having worked in entertainment for 10 years that I did, even though I was not even close to the level that he was at, I can see why he got away with it for as long as he did. It's much harder for me to understand why Mike Moran, if he has been doing this stuff this whole time, how he got away with it. I think that's what I'm saying. There's just, I think it's one of those things that you have to work in entertainment to really understand some of this stuff. And I'm not saying I approve of it, but trust me right now, there's people, right now tonight, 10:24 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:24 p.m. Pacific Time in LA, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, etc. Right now, there are people sleeping with each other so they can get parts in movies and TV shows. As I am doing the show, it's happening. It's happening. And it's just accepted. It's just accepted. And dare I say it, there are women in positions of power who are making men do it, and there are men in positions of power who are making women do it, and men making men and women making women. It's all going on. So I just certainly a few people, including Harvey Weinstein, have been caught, and it sounds like what he was doing was especially egregious. But Harvey Weinstein going to jail isn't really going to stop everything. When you get a bunch of people who are models and actresses and actors, and they're all good looking, and they're all very in touch with their emotions, this stuff's going to happen. Sharon, did I miss? Sharon, did you? Shuri, and sleeping with attorneys to get out of charges to get away with other criminal activities. That could be. Sharon, did you ask me a question before? I'm trying to remember. Did I miss it? I'm going back up through here, and maybe I did. Somebody she says, can't wait for the update episode. Did somebody ask me about candy? I think one of you asked me a question about candy. You know, as far as Easter and everything. Somebody did ask me that. I'm looking for it right now. I think it was right around when Emily asked me that question there. Well, here, Emily asked me, what's the best candy the Easter Bunny has ever brought you? I don't know the last time. It's been a long time, Emily, since anybody has brought me any Easter candy. I would say that I love the Reese's eggs that they bring out this time of year. I'm a big Reese's peanut butter cup fan anyway. So this time of year when they bring out the eggs with the chocolate with the peanut butter inside, forget about it. Forget about it. It's spectacular. You know, I don't know. I love chocolate. You know, chocolate's really my weakness. So I would just have to say that. Yeah, it was, yeah. Okay, we got it. The Doe Patrol. Ed, your hair looks cute now that it's dry and your curls are starting. Not to change the subject, but for your information. Well, trust me, if I were to let this hair go, the Doe Patrol, I would look like a little Dutch boy or whatever they call it, with the hair wants to go like that. Oh, yeah. Michelle says, yes, love the Christmas tree Reese's or Reese's. More chocolate, maybe. Kiss the Girls, the Doe Patrol. Yeah, Kiss the Girls. That's right. That was the other with James Patterson. There was Along Came a Spider, which was just James Patterson novel, and Kiss the Girls, which was the other one. Yeah, back in the 90s. Yeah. Harvey Weinstein ruined Ashley Judd's career. Yeah. And that it's bad. Peeps are disgusting, Sharla says. Yeah. Yeah, Peeps are not good. No, Peeps. See, I'm not a big marshmallow guy, so that's probably part of it. I'm not a big jelly bean guy. Don't get into those, but I do love Twizzlers, and I do love like gummy bears and things, but not jelly beans, not marshmallows and stuff. Larry, hey Larry, what's going on? Good to see you tonight. Didn't know you were in here. Club dancers pros can afford top legal talent. Street pros with a habit cannot. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. I think we've covered everything on the agenda tonight. That's great. Let's move on. We've gone to like an hour and a half. So let's just wrap this up. This Friday, the disappearance. So I guess Natasha will start the video right now for the preview. This Friday, we will be covering the disappearance of Christi Nichols. She disappeared from Gothenburg, Nebraska, which I think is going to be our third Third disappearance from Nebraska, I think. Jason Jolkowski and Regina Marie Boss, I think, are the other two. She disappeared from Gothenburg, Nebraska, December 10th, 1987. It is an episode I'm calling Cycle of Abuse. And the guest for that episode I'm welcoming back to the program for the second time. Or she's going to be on. I'm welcoming back for the first time, but this will be her second appearance. Heather Grotman from the lostandfoundblogs.com website. She was on the program about a year and a half ago, October 2018. She was on for the Dale Kerstetter episode. Heather does great work, and I think all of you know that I like to give a shout out to people in the true crime community who I think are doing a great job, and she is certainly one of them. The other one, of course, would be Anthony from crimeblogger1983.blogspot.com. In fact, he has the record for being on the program the most, 3 times. Well, this is going to be Heather's second time, and Christi Nichols' disappearance is one she wrote about. And I had talked to Heather maybe 6 weeks ago, and I said, it's about time we have you on the program again. Any particular disappearance that you've written about recently that you'd like to talk about on the program? And she picked this one out, so that's what we'll be talking about. This is a disappearance that was featured also on Unsolved Mysteries in 1988, 1989, so not long after she disappeared. This is also a disappearance that lends itself to one particular scenario. This disappearance, I would say, plays out very much like, if you will remember, Rosemary Rapp's disappearance, in which her husband says the two of them went to bed, and the next morning he got up, she wasn't there, just took off. This is Christie's disappearance is a little bit like that, or a lot like that. However, there are some facts regarding the case that maybe just don't quite fit into that mold as easily. In fact, you might even say that they contradict the idea that her husband, Mark, murdered her, then got rid of her body. There are at least a couple things that we will present in the interview that might cause you to lean in a different direction. Heather will talk about how this disappearance affected her. She can remember watching the original Unsolved Mysteries episode regarding Christi and how she knew about it. She kind of tried to follow it if anything was going on, and then finally with her website, and she's written about quite a few disappearances on there now. She finally got to write about it. She over the years has been in contact with Christi's mother and some of Christi's other family members who we will talk about in the episode, and she will give their impressions of what they think happened and everything that was going on in Christi's life before she disappeared. It's just, and the reason we're calling it Cycle of Abuse is because she was married to Mark Nichols, who there's no argument that he was abusive to her. And the big issue is that it seems other people knew and didn't do much about it. And it seemed that Christi was kind of in this alone. And so it wasn't just Mark that was spinning, this cycle of abuse, but there were other people who were allowing it to happen. This is going to be another disappearance where we will be talking about a crooked law enforcement officer. I'm not going to go as far as to say that he had anything to do with the disappearance, but you will hear in the interview how, being that this chief of police was friends with Mark Nichols, this chief of police was putting pressure on Christi to not leave him, something that he should not have been doing. and he knew that Mark was an abusive husband. So you're going to hear about that in the interview as well. Of course, the tough part about this disappearance is that it's over 32 years old, and some of these people that we're going to be talking about are deceased. Let's see what. So that will be the disappearance for this Friday. Everything has already been recorded, so it's ready for Friday. And as you would expect, I'm going to write a blog about it, and it will be available on patreon.com/unfound podcast if you are a member. I think that's all I have for tonight. Let's see if we got anything else going on here. Cherie says she loves Heather. I know which Heather you're talking about, Cherie. And Carrie loves Heather too. Kathy says that Heather's blogs are wonderful. They are. And Cherie says Dale's is one of my most listened to Unfound episodes. I didn't know that, Cherie. Yeah, Dale Kerstedters. And I want you all to know that Heather continues to do great work on Dale's case. And in fact, maybe I should just include that in the next update episode. Some of the things that she has discovered. I think it was in the last update episode, but maybe I might mention that again, being that she's going to be on this Friday. Yeah, Laura, they're both the blogs between Anthony and Heather are great. Elizabeth is just outright saying that Christy's husband killed her. Okay, Jasmine. Cherie says it's one of the only ones that I believe had a somewhat happy ending. Dale Kerstedters. Cherie pictures Dale on an island somewhere drinking pina coladas. Unfortunately, I don't think the same way, but I guess it's possible. Laura, you're right about that. Christine says, looking forward to the episode. Thank you, Christine. I need Katie or someone to get a hold of me a little bit. Okay, a little bit. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, Cherie, please join us Sunday. We had so much fun last week. Yeah, if any of you on here are think tank members and you are Patreon supporters and you are at the level to get in the think tank, you got to join us. Make some time. 7 o'clock Eastern on Sunday evenings. Would love to have you here. But that's all I got. Great show. What did we do tonight? I always like to go back through and talk about everything that we covered. We did a lot of stuff tonight. It's more of the same here. No Q&A poll. Talked a little bit more about the Q&A episode. Talked about the Q&A blog that is free this week. You can find it in the link over here on the side. We had an Unfound meeting about something new we're putting together. Still no news on some update. Still no updates on some cases that I thought we would have updates on. Talked about a private investigator getting involved in a disappearance from the first year of Unfound. Talked about Mike Moran. Talked about prisoners being let out of jail due to COVID-19. Took some great questions for all of you. And then we talked about this Friday, the disappearance of Christi Nichols. I hope you will tune in. That's all I got. I hope you enjoyed it. Good night, everybody. I enjoy these shows. Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.